Recording as of now.
Much like in God of War 2018, the most dangerous enemy in DMC5 is the camera. My main reason being that it's something you constantly have to adjust. As you get turned around or enemies run off screen, you have to take your thumb off the action buttons to turn the camera or click to flip the camera around and then go back to playing. I find it to be a constant interruption to my play, not just in DMC5, but in any melee-focused third-person game, whether it's the new God of War, Dark Souls, DMC.
So when it comes to the camera, if I recall, doesn't the enemies only attack when they're on screen? Which means that you can actually use the camera for an advantage to kind of like focus on one enemy at a time.
Yeah, but I would also call that a problem because it's what I like to call a band-aid solution, where it's like, with a free camera, enemies can just be behind the camera where you can't see them. So if they attack you from off screen, it's going to be unfair. And so it's like, oh, well, let's just fix that by not having enemies that are off screen attack you. But you wouldn't have to deal with the problem in the first place if you didn't have it be a free roaming camera. So you created a problem and then created a solution for that problem. I mean, you could have just taken out the problem in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I also have problems with DMC5's camera, but not in any way he's talking about. I don't give a shit if it makes games feel the same. I just think DMC5's camera is upsetting.
Mm-hmm. Like, was it last night I even played a little bit just to get a little refresher on the game? I'd say the most bullshit I had was when, I don't remember what they're called. The, like, goat thing. It was charging up its, like, icicle rush.
Oh, Baphomet.
And yeah. And it just kind of hit me with all 5 spikes because as it was charging, I moved the camera away, but since it was still charging it up, it was still in play.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
About the most I can come up with.
I mean, I think the most annoying example is with the Hell Judicas, because they teleport into their attacks a lot of the time, so they can teleport while they're off screen and then attack you from out of nowhere, even though they're off screen technically.
And then there's the Fury.
And then there's the Fury, which, to be fair, does not attack you when it's off screen, but whenever it's going into its attacking phase, it can just not be on screen.
And then there's the whole issue of... I didn't hear that, what?
Especially, like, with other enemies that are, like, attacking you.
Yeah, but that's less of a camera thing. That's just the Fury being the Fury, but...
Whatever. It works fine. Whatever. It works fine in third-person shooters because the camera is tied to aiming long-range weapons, but I will never like this in a hand-to-hand combat game. Remapping the controller definitely helps with the camera control because if you're attacking using the triggers, you can move the camera while attacking, but you're still going to be swinging the camera around all the time, and I'd rather not have to be thinking about it. Oh, what I wouldn't give for a fixed camera in this game. When I was playing DMC4, occasionally the game would have me running through these beautiful sections that switch to fixed camera angles. They look great and feel very smooth to navigate, but they didn't have me fight any enemies. I'm really not sure why, because that would have been fun. Some DMC-style combat in a God of War camera style. That would have made me very happy. Part 3. Half the levels are tentacles. The first levels of DMC5 really impress. The opening level feels so unique and creepy. Going into the city, there are battles in the streets around abandoned cars, there's a boss battle outside with big destructible environments, and you get some scripted animations that make you feel like you're inhabiting a real world that's collapsing. You find yourself jumping across rooftops of buildings that are submerged in water, running through sewage systems and across a train yard, gloomy outdoor areas navigating through old Gothic structures. This stuff is all really cool from an aesthetic angle. Where the design starts to falter is, as the game goes on, it feels like you spend more and more time in these worlds that are made up mostly of tentacles and flesh pits. I understand the narrative justification for this, but it really does feel like a justification for recycling level concepts. Were they short on development time or resources or what? A few more unique levels would have greatly benefited the flow of the second half of the game. The frequent revisiting of tentacle worlds made me feel a bit bored. There are still cool sections in these levels though, like these bone walkways. On top of the levels starting to get repetitive, they don't feel very interesting to explore. I know you can find orbs and occasional secret missions, but I didn't feel very inspired to really look around and try to find hard to reach places. The structure of the levels tends to feel very rinse and repeat too. I remember a common criticism of Doom 2016 was that it was just arena fight, walk down a corridor, and then another fight. I don't really agree. I think that criticism is exaggerated when there are non-arena focused levels like Foundry, Argent Facility, most of the early game levels, though it did become mostly arena focused as the game went on. DMC5.
So having just replayed Doom 2016, that's one of those half truths where, yeah, technically, he's right. Where there are a lot of there's a lot of downtime in between arena fights, but the vast majority of Doom 2016's gameplay is going to be arena fights. And it's also weird that he would say any of this, considering that he likes Doom Eternal, which is very, very structured in arena fight, platforming section, arena fight, platforming section. But even then,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where, like, it comes to Kingdom Hearts 2, where it's like, oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 is just a bunch of hallways of combat in it. I'm like, yeah, the game's about the combat. I don't want any other bullshit in it. I'm glad that
God of War
DMC5.
3.
Yeah, that too. But I'm glad DMC5 streamlines things from other DMCs. I did not like having to explore in DMCs 1 and 3. I didn't play 2, obviously. And I liked that
I
4
think
was more combat focused. But even 4 has a
I
stupid
think
bullshit like the tops.
I think one could be, if like we do eventually, hopefully, get one of those remake or remasters or whatever of DMC one, it could be made to work better. But who knows?
I mean, like, yeah, it could be more, like, functional or just, like, easier to do. But if you're gonna make it easier to do, I'd rather just not do it at all. I don't want any of the exploring bullshit. Because if it's easier, then it's just a waste of time. And if it's harder, then
I
it's a
think
waste of time that I don't like.
like one idea that I had that I just thought was fun was like how do I phrase this? Like you have the whole castle open up to you, and you can go in any pathway you wish, complete different challenges however you can, which would be very interesting for the speedrunners.
Yeah, that's definitely what I thought DMC1 was going to be when I first started playing it, because I got to, like, the second or third mission or whatever, and I was like, oh, I'm, like, going back to areas I've already been in. Is this game, like, pseudo-open world? And kind of, but not really.
It is, but not exactly. Which I think a remake has the possibility of really capitalizing on that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't even know if I want a DMC1 remake. It's very much a Metal Gear Solid situation where I don't want to remake some of the games. I think I just want more of them. Especially in
Mm.
DMC situation, because DMC5 doesn't feel like enough to me, story-wise, so I want a DMC6.
I definitely want a DMC6. Like this in particular, I want more Nero as well, but like to see maybe a little bit more on the Sparta twins. But
I want more from
mostly
Virgil.
Nero.
I want more
Mhm.
from Virgil only because 5 feels like him at his most irrational, where he's just fighting to fight, and so now that he's gotten over it, it seems, I want to see what he acts like when he's a normal fucking person.
Contemplating all of his life decisions and then just kind of ends.
Yeah.
I gotta go park.
5 really worthy of that criticism though. Levels do feel like you just walk into an open room, kill a couple waves of 3 or 4 enemies, and then you're just running through empty areas, picking up orbs, maybe occasionally jumping on some platforms, and then you get to another flat open room to fight more waves of 3 or 4 enemies. Outside of the arena fights, the levels feel bare. There's no puzzle solving or branching paths, they don't have incidental combat encounters to engage in between the big fights, and when they do, they throw low-tier enemies at you that pose no threat. Now, that bit about the enemies changes quite a bit on higher difficulties. Those low-tier enemy encounters may become mid to high tier, which is a welcome change, but it's not really enough to keep the levels from feeling like they're all the same. And when the levels feel the same, you get lost. Pressing in the left stick shows where you're supposed to go, which I'm happy about because there's really no sense of direction or objectives. The camera doesn't guide you, and there aren't any objectives like find this thing, save this person, activate this ritual, or whatever.
That's a good thing. Like I said, I did not like that shit in the older DMC games. And 5 is not a game I get lost in ever. I think the only times ever been a problem are in some of the Qliphoth levels, because it'll be like Nero Mission 8 where you fight the Baphomet for the first time. I don't think the camera automatically points itself towards, like, the blood elevator thing, and because the entrance of the room and the exit of the room look the exact same, sometimes I end up going the wrong way, but then I instantly know which way is the wrong way, so I just turn around. But I don't really get
Mhm.
lost in DMC5 levels because it's mostly just go forward.
All right, just 1 second here because my car is stupid and I'm gonna run up to my laptop.
Mhm.
I don't know. You two can like talk or something. I don't know. 1 sec.
You're just running forward most of the time, getting to the end. Remember in God of War where you have to push the cage up the incline while fighting? That was brutal and interesting. Carrying the guy on the bridge and defending him, swinging around pillars in the time puzzle, turning the walls of Pandora's temple to align the doorways. I wish there were some actual missions to do as you're wandering these nice looking levels. The colors in this game are beautiful. DMC5 uses the Resident Evil engine and it looks stunning. Thank God they didn't desaturate the image like they did in the RE2 remake. But if you're gonna play this game, you'd better not expect much color variety. I hope you like purple.
What's it? So, using the RE engine is actually one of the things I hate about DMC5, because it does realistic lighting, and realistic lighting in DMC5 very often means dark areas with dark enemies where I can't see shit, and I don't like it. specifically with any enemies that are like grayish, like the Hell Antinoras, the ones that get pissed off at you when you knock them down. And
Yeah, yeah.
and Pusas are lighter, so it's not really as much of a problem with them. Uh, the Hellkainas, fucking scythe guys, and any black and grayish enemies just get lost in the sauce when it's too dark, and it's awful.
I also mentioned in your streams that there was no drop shadows.
Yeah, because that's sort of a combination of the whole lighting thing and the camera thing, where it was easier to tell what the hell was going on in other DMCs because there were drop shadows and there was not realistic lighting. Obviously, realistic enough, but it was made to the point where you could very easily make out the enemies from the rest of the bullshit in the game, and depth perception was not as big of an issue. But in DMC5, it's like, oh yeah, everything's got to look hyper realistic so you can see every single particle on Dante's ball sack. And I just don't think it was necessary when it came to the lighting.
Well, it certainly wasn't necessary. Can it look great? Yeah, but not exactly the best for gameplay.
Yeah.
4.
Hope you like purple.
Everything in this game is purple and black. And in the rare case that is not purple and black, it's red and black. Level after level, room after room. Purple everywhere. V's animal attacks are purple, Dante's motorcycle is purple,
Hello.
Nero's jacket is purple, devil trigger bars and boss health bars are purple, all the bosses are purple.
Incorrect.
Purple. All their attacks are purple projectiles. Low-level enemies are purple and black. Mid-level enemies are purple and black. High-level enemies are purple and black. I feel bad for the art department. If you're an artist designing all these creatures for a video game, do you want to be told that you can't experiment with any colors? That must suck. I think it makes the game feel boring as the action just blends together. Purple enemies with purple attacks against a purple background and a purple floor. Sometimes
There's definitely less color variety than in like a DMC3, but I do not think purple is as prominent in this game as he really thinks it is.
Hell, when it comes to Nero's jacket, having that I own the jacket, it's not purple, it's blue. Like down to there, he just has the color wrong.
If I wanted to point out the most prominent color in DMC5, it would probably be gray. Because like, look at this.
Blue or gray. That's what I would say, not purple. I feel like
it's hard
there's
to keep enemies you're trying to focus on.
yeah, I just feel like there's far more blue than anything.
Enemies you're trying to focus on. I can't tell you how many times I died on the higher difficulty levels just because I could barely see what's going on. There's so many arenas where everything is the same color, and it really sucks when you die because some mostly black and purple enemy blended into the purple-black wall in the shadows and hit you when you didn't even see him there. It's a really odd design decision. It's not everywhere. Like I mentioned before, there are other levels that have their own distinct looks, but there the enemies are all still purple. I got the feeling in the later levels like I had already played them before. It would have helped to have some good platforming sections to break things up and give levels something to set them apart from each other. Early in the game, you enter a library and you can jump across the chandeliers. Seeing this made me excited for some cool skill-based platforming later in the game, but unfortunately it just never happens. The platforming never goes beyond jumping up ledges, and one section where you have to dodge spikes. This was weird to me
And that
because in the
section
last
sucked.
game, DMC4, they had some skill-based platforming and some puzzle solving. There's this
It was
section where you have
boring.
to jump in time to grapple to catch orbs that periodically disappear or move. If you get the timing wrong, you fall and have to repeat a fight. I wasn't a fan of having to replay the fight each time. I thought that was a bit harsh, but I appreciated actually having to get the jumps right to make it across. DMC5 takes the concept of Nero grappling onto these points and dumbs them down to the point where they might as well not even exist, because all you have to do is stand on a spawning point, the orb appears, and hit the grapple at your leisure. Fly across and land automatically. There's no skill
You
or
guys
timing
know
required at all.
Fortnite?
It's just automatic, and I think that sucks. If you've seen my last
What?
video on God of War 2018, you
do
know
you
I
guys-
really
do you
don't
guys
like this
play
auto
Fortnite?
platforming.
Hold on. What did you just say?
Do you guys play Fortnite?
No.
I haven't touched Fortnite since like season 1.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Cool.
trend
Anyway, in
the game.
terms of the what's it, Grim Grips or whatever, they again, like I said while he was talking, I've always thought the Grim Grips were fucking stupid in DMC4, and they're even worse in DMC5, but only by virtue of the fact that they're boring and pointless, and they shouldn't be in the game at all.
Mm-hmm. In fact, it just feels like a way to just not have Dante or V or whatever play their levels, which is really annoying. I wish you could replay the game as like every character, kind of like how Virgil has his own campaign for everyone's mission.
Yeah, it's bizarre that you can't play through the entire game as any of the characters, at least once you beat it or something.
That's so weird.
But even then, I don't even know if I would say it's like, oh, it was a way for them to not have to do that, because they didn't do it anyway, just like the multiplayer that they didn't finish implementing. I think they
Oh,
just did it I think they just did it because it makes the level seem more interesting. It's like, whoa, you're grappling across this huge gap. It looks so cool, doesn't it? And no, it doesn't.
Mm.
I don't care. There's many
I
games
can
do
already
this.
think of. I can already think of a way to make Dante like he just has to use Trickster in order to like lock onto a thing, and then just like Virgil does with his trick dash thing.
Yeah.
And then for V, he already
Or just-
does that with his cane.
Yeah, or just make a bridge.
That
Or- Or just do whatever, because they already alter V's levels for Virgil. They don't even bother with any of the like V tricks. They just break off his walls.
trend in games. When you start putting this stuff together, levels that have repetitive structures, a free-roaming camera that doesn't give levels a unique presentation, a lack of interesting platforming sections or puzzles, and everything being purple, the game starts to lose my interest. At this point, the only thing keeping me here is the combat. So let's get into it.
Yeah, it's a
Part
combat
5.
game.
What makes for good combat? When we say the combat in a game is good, what do we mean? What is combat? I'm sure there are other people who can break it down better than I can, but I want to say that combat is more than the attack options that your character has. Combat is also about defensive options. It's about mobility, enemy AI and variety, enemy behaviors. Combat is also affected by the locations where it takes place. Are there different platforms that give you navigational options while you're fighting? Are there hazards that have to be avoided? Are the enemies easy to kill, or do they have large health pools? Do they have specific weaknesses? Does your character have limited resources? You can't talk about a game's combat without considering these factors.
One of the things I will say that I miss from DMC3, not that DMC5 particularly needed it, but I wish that there were enemy like elemental weaknesses again, because that was one of the more interesting parts of replaying DMC3 was, you can just go back with to Cerberus with Agni and Rudra and do more damage. And I like that. I like that aspect of that game. So to have it just not really be a thing in DMC5, well, okay, I looked it up and apparently it is a thing for like Hellbats specifically, where Cerberus does more damage. But aside from that, I don't think it applies to any other enemy.
A thing that I have come to realize playing all of these Bloody Palace runs is that Cerberus kicks ass with its electric mode because of just the stun. Because it'll stun the
If anything, I was gonna say the electric phase is probably the easiest one because electric phase is the one I never get hit on. The fire phase is where he just constantly attacks you over and over and over again, and then the ice phase is constantly throwing projectiles.
Oh, I meant the the tool. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, like it does so much with its stun phase.
Yeah, I definitely do want to use the electric attacks from King Cerberus more. The only problem is that a few of them just have too long animations, and I do not like animations with a lot of end lag. So, especially in DMC5. So I just
the most I use it for is just the lightning bolt or like rain of lightning. I don't know what it's actually called.
I mostly end up using there's just the normal lightning bolt after like revolver or something. Because I can just hold it while I'm doing the revolver and then let it go at the end.
And then there's let's see, so I think it's the back B and then the forward B. Those are the ones I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And forward is good against the, was it Judecas? No, I always forget the name. The teleporter.
Yeah, the Judica.
Mm-hmm.
I end up using the Balrog for the Judicas, because just spamming the punches will eventually stun them too, so...
I guess I just came into using Cerberus more.
I mean, whatever works, because Judicas fucking suck.
It's the same thing, like, when it comes to Judecas and Furies, I think King Cerberus is what I found to be the easiest to use. Especially because you'll just use Revolver in the air as the Furies are attacking you, and it'll most of the time hit them.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever not hit them for me.
It has 3 playable characters: Nero, V, and Dante. And of the 3, I find Dante to be the most enjoyable and improvisational, with 4 different weapons and 4 different styles based around gunplay, parrying, energy swords, and mobility. There's a lot of experimentational fun to be had with him. It's easy to just try stuff in the moment, which is what I like about him. Teleporting up to an enemy and launching them into the air, doing an energy sword attack with a regular sword combo, switching to the motorcycle for a downward smash attack, and then quickly switching to the nunchucks to flip forward into a flurry of attacks feels so good. Nero feels a bit more specialized on learning tech. I'm sure that learning the properties of each Devil Breaker leads to crazy combo potential. I know the game has crazy shit on an advanced level, but I'm not going that deep into it. Without that stuff, Nero feels a bit bland only having the one sword, but I still enjoy using him from time to time. Enemy variety is good.
The thing with DMC5 for me is that Nero used to be my favorite character because I liked him more in DMC4. But then the more I played Dante and the more I figured out how he actually worked, and then also figuring out how quadruple S worked, because the description the game gives you is not at all accurate. I started liking Dante more, and I started liking Nero less because the more I started to, because once I started going for 100%, and I was and I was trying to go for all S ranks on the missions, it began to get more and more annoying when I needed like a no damage bonus, and Nero just has way too much end lag on some of his attacks, where it felt like I was getting hit way more often as Nero than I was as Dante.
Agreed. I definitely think I get hit as Nero far more than I ever do Dante. And it's one of those things where I think that
Yeah.
he's all like, he is the most easiest to pick up, but I think he's just still too lacking. He needs just a little bit more to the kit.
Yeah. I've said it, I think I've said it on my own videos, but I think that everyone in the game needs a quadruple S mechanic because it feels weird to go from playing Dante, where I'm fishing for triple S so I can use Sin DT, to go back to playing Nero and I'm at triple S and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I just keep playing the game as I was.
Like maybe a way to implement it. Let's see. Like he gets access to his devil his wings where he can just, use both of the bringers.
Mm. I think
that way you don't have to enter DT in order to use it.
Yeah, that could be cool. Or one that's not particularly exciting but would definitely be useful considering how much damage it does is if you're at triple S, you can just use the full charge shot without having to actually charge it.
Oh, that would be broken.
Yeah, but Virgil's is broken anyway, so it's not like they're afraid of that.
What does his triple S do?
Virgil doesn't technically have a triple S. He can just turn his Sin DT off whenever, and it doesn't start going down until after a few seconds have passed. So he technically always has triple S.
Essentially. And then the only thing you really need to focus on is the concentration.
Yeah, but as long as you have 2 bars, you just spam super moves.
Here.
There's a few enemies that I think are really interesting to fight against. Riots are terrifying in groups because of how nimble they are with all their attack variations. Hell Antinoras have an interesting attack where they run at you in a berserk mode that gives them super armor. The Chaos is a constant.
I hate that. I hate Antinoras because they're so annoying. The super armor is fucking. It's when it's solo, it's not that bad because you can just buster them, or with other characters, just work around them. But with there's a bunch of enemies on screen, having to knock down the Antinora and then go, all right, time to wait my turn until I can do something else to them, or just like stay in the air. It gets tedious.
That's what I mean about implementing the Cerberus to get the stun. The only way to make them like worthwhile is to stun them, because otherwise they're fucking annoying.
What I end up doing for the most part, whenever I'm actually able to focus on them, is just use the moves that knock them down without putting them in the super armor state, like Nero's combo 4, I think, or combo D, whatever. I think that Dante's Helmbreaker doesn't, because Helmbreaker doesn't knock them down, but Dante does have a move that puts them in knockdown that actually isn't a thing. I think it might be a Cerberus thing, or not Cerberus, Balrog. But whatever moves that knock them down without actually knocking them down is what I go for, and then I just try to blow them up as fast as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I hate them. One of the most annoying enemies in the game. Because they have so much health, too.
Constant threat with its devastating full-screen spinning attack, and I like fighting the Angelos by flying over their head and hitting them behind their protective shield and launching them into combos. The intricate design of enemy behaviors, combined with all the cool and useful attack options from Nero and especially Dante, lead to some really fun and challenging fights. I've seen 20-minute video guides on YouTube that talk about how to deal with just one enemy type. That's some real depth. The boss battles range from alright to awesome, with the exception of the Mission 6 Nero boss fight, which even on Dante Must Die difficulty is the most pathetic boss fight I've encountered in years.
Yeah, we hate Gilgamesh here. Can I get some Fs in the chat for Gilgamesh?
Very boring.
Worst boss in the game.
Some of these guys took me a couple hours to take down. I'm a fairly stubborn player, and I take longer than most people to adapt to how games want me to play them. But I don't blame my failure on the combat options or the enemies. Usually I just need an attitude change and some patience. It takes me a while to find it though. When I finally got the hang of the fights, it was satisfying to take them down. However, we need to talk about the difficulty balance of DMC5, which is my main problem with it. It's a huge problem. All the praise that I just heaped on this game's combat in terms of enemy behaviors and attack options goes out the fucking window when playing this game for the first time. When playing DMC5 for the first time, you are given 2 difficulty options, Human and Devil Hunter. I like challenging games, so I went for Devil Hunter, and the first thing I did was try to mash triangle on my PlayStation controller and see if I could win that way. Enemies mostly just stood there. I rarely ever took damage regardless of the character I was using or the level I was on. Sometimes I would do an air launch and do a little combo, but never out of any sense of strategy. I just ran around mashing attack, and then I'd think, okay, I guess I'll do the charge attack now. Okay, I guess I'll launch this guy. Okay, I guess I'll hit the Devil Breaker button now. It just felt like I was doing whatever and nothing had any real meaning. Add in the fact that the enemies will not attack you if they're out of view from the camera, and you have an incredibly easy game. The game has 4 other unlockable difficulties, which is where things get interesting, but we'll get there. You are not allowed to select hard on your first playthrough, which has a really negative impact on a first-time player's experience if there's someone who likes being challenged. To clarify, I'm talking about the standard edition of DMC5 that came out in 2019. There's a special edition coming out that will add a new difficulty level, Legendary Dark Knight, that's based on the Son of Sparta difficulty and has more enemies. Will this be available at the start for new players, or will you have to beat Devil Hunter first? If the former is the case, hopefully that'll fix the terrible balance issues on the first playthrough. But even if it does, this version of the game has been out for over a year, and everyone who's played this game had to play it like this. Oh, and if you're on PC, you don't even get to play the special edition because Capcom says the game is being made to take advantage of the unique power of consoles, which is laughable.
Unfortunately.
Fuck you, Capcom. If this
And also, so one of these things is that like it's like, oh yeah, you can't choose one of the hard difficulties from the start. And I understand why that would be annoying if you think you're really good at video games, but at the same time, video games are made for a first impression, and if your first impression of DMC5 is whatever difficulty you happen to choose, that's not really what they're going for. They want you to play the game and know what you're playing first before they say, okay, now do the rest of it. Which is also why, if you just beat yours in missions either 1 or 8, the game just lets you do the next difficulty. So if it was really that easy, then, you know. Because that's what I did when I bought Special Edition after having 100% of the game on PC. I just beat mission 1 and then unlocked the later difficulties so I could do DMD first. So if the game's really that easy, then yeah. And even with the LDK, doing LDK first, because SE obviously has that unlocked first, or has that as one of the things you have unlocked first, is also not good because while the different enemy setups are cool, it's still Legendary Dark Knight, and it's not just like a couple more enemies, it's like 5 times as many, and you cannot do shit to them without any skills. And so you actually need to play the game to unlock any of your skills first before you even try to take on Legendary Dark Knight, or else you're going to be spending the entire game using one combo that's not going to hit half the time.
this force difficulty were put into other games I played, I'd be furious. Even the boss fights are easy. Every boss fight was just me screwing around. And if I died, which rarely ever happened, the game lets you revive with red orbs or gold orbs, so there weren't any consequences to my actions. And the game gives you so many orbs all the time that it's very easy to unlock most of your abilities. For all this talk about needing to keep your style meter high, I unlocked a ton of moves by the end of the game just by screwing around, so I felt no motivation to care about combo durations or ranks. The game also gave me 100,000 red orbs right from the start, which I was able to pour into the most necessary combat and mobility options, which ruins the whole idea of the game teaching you how to play stylish in the beginning to get those important first upgrades. That's
bullshit. So, having played DMC5 twice now, once on PC where I had the 100,000 orbs at first, and once on Special Edition where I didn't, both times it was extremely boring to play the game without any skills, because even once I knew what I was doing, it was still crippling to not have, like, the full version of Stinger, or Enemy Step, or Get More Orbs, or what the fuck ever. The 100,000 orbs is actual piss money in DMC5, because 100,000 orbs will barely even get you like half of Nero's things, if even. Half is very much overselling it. But then you get into the other other 3 characters in the game. 100,000 orbs isn't anything, so this is not a complaint. This is a non-issue.
Mm-hmm. The real
huge
issue
fail
is
right
the
there.
yellow orbs.
That's a huge
Fucking hell.
Yeah, they do give you a shit ton of gold orbs, but at the same time, gold orbs are really just there if you want to do it, if you want to revive, and if you don't want to, if you think reviving makes it not fun, then just like don't. And I'm a big advocate of like the player should not have to regulate the game's difficulty. If they let you revive, then that's the fault of the game. But DMC5 does make it very clear that you're not supposed to do that because they'll absolutely tank your mission score. Well, I guess not tank. 0.9 is actually not that bad for most of the difficulties, but if you're getting such high scores that you can still get an S rank even with a gold orb usage, then like you're still playing the game pretty well, and I don't think it's really a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
right there. It's here that I need to start talking about God of War, the classics, not the babysitting game. I'm not going to say that God of War is a more complex game than Devil May Cry. Definitely not. DMC goes far deeper into enemy-specific tactics and crazy amounts of combat options and technical skills to master. But I will say that when you start God of War for your first time, if you pick the highest difficulty option, the game will kick your ass if you screw around. The very
Oh, so like DMC 5? Because if you hop into DMD or Hell and Hell without having played the game before, the game will kick your ass, which is why they put you on Devil Hunter first, which was your complaint. So, what the fuck?
very first hider in the second room will kill you if you don't block. On the second level, if you're just mashing attack, the guards will tag team you and hit stun you, and you'll be dead in about 10 to 15 seconds. On the hard difficulty, air launching into a multi-hit combo isn't just a fun thing to do. It's a way to keep yourself away from a dangerous enemy on the ground, or launch a heavy enemy into the air to focus him down. I know that's the same thing as Devil May Cry, but if the enemies aren't a threat, this stuff isn't nearly as satisfying to do. In God of War, you're really starving for those upgrades from the beginning, and you feel the difference.
If you play on a higher difficulty, which would be the same case in DMC 5, which you didn't do because you couldn't beat Urizen. So
Between a 10-hit combo that gives you 2 orbs and a 50-hit combo that gives you 30. Right from the start of the game, there's a lot of motivation to use all the tools at your disposal, to control the fight, to survive, to have fun, to improve, to unlock upgrades faster. It's because of the difficulty of the game. God of War has this reputation as a button masher because if you play it on normal for your first time, that's how it is. Thankfully, there's a hard option for people who want the real experience, and then there's an even harder difficulty after that. DMC 5 not offering a hard difficulty option at the start turns the game into the exact God of War button masher that I didn't want it to be, made even worse by virtually infinite chances to revive yourself mid-fight if you happen to die. There's just no consequences for playing like a dumbass. I'll be straight
which is why there's 4 other difficulties.
with you. I thought all you Devil May Cry fans were crazy. 5 hours into my first playthrough, I thought this game was a big dumb pile of crap with how easy and mindless it was. That opinion changed, don't worry, but I had a really bad first experience, and I'll never get my head around why they made it like this. I've talked to fans of this series. They say you're supposed to play through it once and unlock the hard difficulty. I understand that, but why is there not a harder difficulty available at the start? If it's too hard for some people, they'd have 2 other difficulty options to choose from. I'm coming to this series as someone who's mostly unfamiliar with its combat system, and I'm not challenged in any way. I can't imagine how bad it must be for a series veteran to play through the game on normal first. In my opinion, it is inexcusable for the game to force players who want a challenging experience to suffer through a boring 8 to 10 hour campaign just to unlock a difficulty level that will start to be fun. I've honestly never seen anything like it. Look at how Doom handled this. In Doom 2016, there was an easy, normal, and hard. If you beat hard, then you get the extra hard level. But then in Doom Eternal, they knew a lot of people were coming in who were already very experienced in the previous title, so they made the extra hard level available immediately. They know their audience. How does Devil May Cry not know theirs? I know there was more than a 10-year gap between games, but they knew a lot of veterans were coming to this. And again, if someone can't handle hard their first time, they don't have to pick it. Doom and God of War disappeared for a long time and came back years later with reinventions of their respective series, featuring all new mechanics to learn, and they had a hard difficulty setting, so there's no excuse. Anyway,
The difference is that, yes, it's like, oh, you can just give people the option to choose harder if they want, and if it's too hard for them, they can just go to a lower difficulty. But the fact of the matter is that gamers TM are stupid, and if their first experience with the game is one that they don't like for whatever reason, even if it's their own fault, they will end up dropping the game. And from the perspective of the game developer, that's just not really what they want. They would rather people get used to the game first and then decide if they want to play more of it, than have people, not want to play the game at all.
There's also like an issue with
Like the yellow paint, for instance.
Yeah.
and there's also like an issue with like game balancing because like the higher difficulties have like remix enemies and they deal more damage than usual.
Yeah, and
Like,
and
I'm literally playing DMC
They also
5
have
in the
new-
background
they also
here.
have new attacks.
and you won't have any skills, so you won't be able to deal with most of the shit in the game anyway.
Yeah, so Mail's point doesn't make any sense.
The entire point of the first playthrough is to get you your skills, get you used to the game so that you know what you're looking for, and then unleash you upon the rest of it.
I unlocked the hard difficulty, Son of Sparta, and I was ready to give the game another try. I honestly did not enjoy the large majority of my first 10-hour playthrough of this game. No matter what enjoyment comes after that, that fact doesn't change. Going into the hard difficulty, my thought process was, if I could get the same campaign, just more difficulty and more appearance of dangerous enemies, I think that could be fun. I want to be punished for playing carelessly. Make my combat options actually mean something. By the way, I know I'm getting really negative here. Just stay with me. There's still some more to get through, but we'll get to the good stuff soon, I promise. Part 6. The elephant in the room. So, I started the Son of Sparta difficulty. I went in with a lot of excitement, hoping I'd get that challenging Ninja Gaiden God of War feeling I've been craving. But then I noticed something. I had all the upgrades that I unlocked from my previous playthrough. This wasn't a new game, this was a new game plus. I didn't want that at all. I wanted the campaign experience that I had just finished, just more intense. And the game doesn't offer that. You're forced into a new game plus situation. So even though you take more damage and the fights contain higher numbers of threatening enemies, I have double the health, a full devil trigger gauge that heals me every time I use it, and I have all these powerful attacks and defense options. I'm overpowered. So here I am, able to just stupidly mash through every encounter again. I went to the DMC Reddit and I asked
Overpowered is very much overselling it, because you're not overpowered for having Streak 3 just because it goes farther. That's not gonna do much for you. And also, that's like a good thing, because I don't believe that Mayo ever talks about it, but you start this game off with fucking nothing. Nero has like what? His first combo, the ability to shoot, and I think that's literally it. Oh, his launcher, and I don't even know if he has Streak starting out, does he?
Nope.
So first combo, a launcher, and a gun. Is he saying that he wanted to play on the higher difficulties like that? Is that what he wanted?
about this. I don't want to play a new game plus. I just want to play the game that I just played. They told me I can't do that you're supposed to play it this way. And they assured me that the difficulty spike is so high that I'm going to be very happy to have all those upgrades, that I'm going to need them to survive. So is that true? It is, once you get to Dante. On level 10 of 20, you have to play through half the game before you get to a challenging level. The whole first half of Son of Sparta hard difficulty can be passed by screwing around, even if you're not reviving. That's how OP you are. And then you get to Dante's parts and it's like,
I just don't think that's true at all. Maybe so in Nero's case, because Buster does trivialize a lot of his missions early on, but mission 6 is just Gilgamesh, which is, it's Gilgamesh. And then mission 7 is the V-Or Nero mission, and that one is mostly just like riots and shit. And then on Son of Sparta, I think it's just more riots, actually. I don't remember how much that level changes. But
Also, can you screw around against Goliath or like the other demon, like the flying demon?
Artemis?
Oh yeah. Can you screw around those and them, Mayo? Because I don't think so.
Artemis probably, because Artemis kind of sucks. Is one of the easier
Artemis
bosses in the
is
game.
terrible.
But with Behemoth, it's harder because he does more damage. But I still wouldn't call him all that hard. I think the point that Mayo's trying to make for something like that is that now that you've beaten the game, you necessarily have to unlock Double Trigger, and since you have Double Trigger with Nero, that means Nero can now heal. And since he can heal, even if the enemy's doing more damage, it's not necessarily going to be as big of a problem, which is technically correct. So in that aspect, I understand what Mayo's trying to say, but at the same time, that's referring to some of the easier parts of the game. No matter what difficulty you're on, even if it's DMD or Hell in Hell, you're not going to have much trouble with Mission 2. It's Behemoth is not that big of a deal. But once you start getting to the riots in Mission 7, that's when it becomes a problem. And so if it's like, oh yeah, the first the game doesn't get hard until Dante, I don't really think that's true, because missions up to 3 are just generally pretty easy no matter what enemies are in them. And then missions 4 and 5 are easy because you're playing as V. The game will never be hard as him. And then 6 is Gilgamesh, obviously, and I think 7 is where it gets hard. And then 8 is also pretty difficult, especially since it's one of the missions that is impossible to S rank because the game just fucks you over. Then 9's V again. So
Mission 8, what was that?
Mission 8 is what Nero going to fight Urizen for the second time.
Oh yeah.
And then Mission 9 is obviously easy because, again, it's V. So saying, oh yeah, the game doesn't get hard until Dante is not only untrue, but also a bit misleading.
it's like, oh my god, I'm ass kicked. Playing as Dante, I actually had to start thinking about what I wanted from the start. With my Devil Hunter playthrough parts, and it's like, oh my god, I'm getting my ass kicked. Playing as Dante, I actually had to start thinking about what I was doing, and that's what I wanted from the start. With my Devil Hunter playthrough and half the Son of Sparta playthrough, it took me about 16 hours to get to a point where the game was actually interesting to play. And if this is the intended Devil May Cry experience, then I guess I just don't get it. Why is Son of Sparta so badly balanced to make only half of it good? Why would you make your unlockable hard difficulty boring and easy until halfway through? I'm aware that on your first playthrough, if you beat the first boss without dying, you can skip straight to Son of Sparta. I know all about that. That doesn't count. I shouldn't have to do something that difficult as a new player just to be able to play the game on a
But I
decently
thought you
challenging
wanted
level.
difficulty.
Never mind the fact that
What's
you
the
don't really know
problem?
about it if you looked it up or someone told you.
You
The
can only
first
be
path to
able to
beating you
beat
is
it
part of how
if
the
you're a
story
good
goes, and
player.
actually being able to win such a difficult fight as a new player to skip Devil Hunter is not a defense of this design.
But that's literally what you wanted. Especially since you complained about having more moves, and so the entire Urizen fight is exactly what you want. You have no fucking moves, you have no fucking double trigger, and if you beat it, you get to unlock the hard difficulties because it's a pretty high challenge. If this is literally the thing that you were talking about, why don't you like it? What's the problem here? Or has Mayo subconsciously realized that, oh, maybe fighting the harder parts of the game without any skills is actually fucking bullshit?
And through my initial Devil Hunter playthrough and through my Son of Sparta playthrough, happening that made me want to turn the game off every time. You know what it is. It's this guy, V. His levels are the worst. I haven't talked about how he plays yet, because he can't be included in the conversation with Nero and Dante. V doesn't fight. V sends his animal friends to do the fighting for him. The first time I played as him, I thought he was awesome. A character that stays away from combat as you control his two friends and direct their actions separately, and then V has to go in to deal the killing blow to each enemy. What a cool concept. I played around with the launchers and air juggles in the first combat rooms, and I was fascinated by the fighting style. But after a few fights, I started feeling bored. I felt like I was separated from the action. Because I was. My character is just standing in front of the camera while my friends fight in the background, and there's just nothing exciting about it. The enemies rarely ever attack V, so there's nothing to worry about. If the animals take too much damage, they go to sleep and they come back. They can't die, and when you activate Devil Trigger, they come back instantly, so whatever. And you can exploit the camera by turning it away from the action, so the enemies won't even attack your friends, and you can just mash your way mindlessly to victory. This was literally a tactic that was talked about in a video about how to use V on the higher difficulty levels. V is the mashiest mashing I've ever mashed. You can literally just mash your thumb across both attack buttons and wiggle the left stick back and forth, and you're fine. You can even get the coveted triple S style ranking by just randomly mashing buttons. And not only will you win every fight this way, you'll win every boss fight on the hard difficulty, playing on Son of
Less so, especially with the guy on screen right now. What's his face? Nidhogg. Nidhogg is not very easy as V, especially on Hell in Hell, where you just can't get hit at all. This is one of the more involved V fights. I also think it's one of the worst ones because of that. But for the most part, yeah, V is the worst character in the game. You can just spam with him, and then you will get triple S all the time.
Here's the other fun part. This gives him what he's been looking for as well, the fixed camera angle.
True.
And it's one of the worst fights in the game.
True. Yeah, no, Nidhogg kind of sucks. He's better with Virgil, but not by much, because it's harder to hit the tentacles when Virgil just cannot reach them half the time. But even then, you can just use super moves on him and it'll also melt his health, so a bit of an overcorrection.
of Sparta, boss fight, and all I'm doing is repeatedly mashing attack and spinning V around. And I win. It's probably the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a game in years. If you think I'm exaggerating, let's have a little experiment. Alright, Abel, have you ever played this game before?
No.
Alright, well you're gonna play a V mission.
I'm just gonna...
Oh no, not this.
This. I get it.
Launcher, you got
The joke is that V is easy. This is true.
got the kill.
V is the easiest character
We're
in the
at
game.
7.
This is
Dante
not
saves the
contention.
day. Okay, so the V sections are a joke, obviously. I'm sure you have to get good with him to beat the game on the 5th difficulty level where the animal...
No, even on Hell in Hell, V's one of the easier characters. He's still definitely hard because the familiars will also die in one hit, and if you don't have DT always on deck, then that's going to be annoying quickly. But at the same time, you just learn to always have DT on deck, because summoning and desummoning Nightmare only toss 3 bars, and you can get 3 bars back very easily by just reading. So it's not a big a deal.
Also, when Mayo was like showcasing like how easy V was, he used a mission 4 as an example, like the first V mission.
Yeah, but I don't think that
There's-
really
there-
matters at all, because
there's
I've
two,
done
like-
the...
And the one you showcased, there are like 2 like Hell K9 and 2 like Hell Antinoras, and 1 Nobody.
Yeah, which is on Son of Sparta, so it's already the harder version of the mission, but it's also not like it matters anyway, because I've done the Bloody Palos with V, and you can just spam. And I'm pretty confident that I could actually do V missions with my feet. At least at this point, but... Yeah, the V
Oh,
is...
I'm saying is that, like, he used like like one like enemy type that you can easily like beat, and like two other like enemy types that are slightly harder, but they're just like only one.
But every enemy type's easy to beat for V. Like, I don't know if there's a single enemy in the game that's hard for V to beat. Even Furies
I don't know,
kind of eat
maybe the-
shit. Because you can just have
They're
Shadow
easier.
do his. Because you can just have Shadow do his stinger attack, and it does so many hits that it's just going to counter every time. Or his air attack, which is also a multi-hit.
Yeah.
So
oh gosh, I'm getting kicked.
even Furies kind of eat shit against V. I generally cannot think of a single enemy that is even kind of a threat. Maybe Judica's, because you can't stun them as V, but it's not like it really matters because you'll just wear them down eventually anyway. It's not to be able to get an attack off. You can just send Shadow and Griffin over whenever you need to.
Especially in
forbid,
like in the original version. Like
Yeah.
if the enemy is off screen, they won't attack you.
And God forbid Nightmare's ever out and he's just spamming lasers, the Judica will never get a chance to attack. So yeah, I think V trivializes every enemy in the game. I don't think if that's just because he did on Mission 4, it lessens his point in need, more or less.
Can get knocked out in one hit. But come on, you're gonna judge a character's balance by how hard it is to win with them on a difficulty that's unlocked after 60 hours of play? But look, V was something that just had to be addressed. I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about Dante on the Son of Sparta difficulty.
Yeah, even Death Scissors are kind of piss easy with V, since Griffin can just get behind them and hit them when they're not blocking.
That's when the game actually comes alive. I already stated that I find Dante the most interesting because of how easy it is to improvise with him, and I love his trickster style that lets him dash around. The first Dante level on Son of Sparta was a wake-up call. It was the first moment that the game said, no, stop fucking around, use your air juggles, take advantage of when an enemy is stunned, experiment with your weapons, switch styles. This stuff all starts to have real tangible benefits during combat. It becomes very useful to play with all the mechanics available. I'm not just air juggling because it randomly occurred to me in the moment. I'm air juggling because I need to kill this guy now.
It's funny how he's saying playing with all the mechanics available, when earlier his complaint was that you have all the mechanics available when you play on the higher difficulties. And also he's not using quadruple S, so evidently he's not using all the mechanics available.
And stay off the ground so I don't get murdered. And as I'm feeling more motivated to use my options in smarter ways, I start naturally experimenting with other options that are outside my comfort zone, and I start enjoying to play the game in a really stylish way. That's what I do when I play God of War and Ninja Gaiden. Yes, it's finally happening. The next few Dante levels are fantastic. There's so much good combat here. And the boss battles, man, this is some of the best stuff I've played in years. I'm finally seeing what people love about this game. The thrilling experience of the 4
I'm not a huge fan of Boxing Zen. He's not one of my favorite bosses, and also Cerberus has too much health. But for the most part, yeah, Dante bosses are pretty good.
Dante levels gave me a lot of hope going forward. Hope that the other characters' levels would also challenge me. Sadly, that's not the case. The game dumps you back into a V level, and it's by far the worst one. It's a boss rush level, fighting bosses that stand no chance against you as you stand full screen mashing your pet attack buttons. The first one is so bad because you...
So this is one of those ones where it's like, yeah, technically true, because they're bosses that aren't very hard for V to fight, that have less health, and really just those two things make the whole experience pretty piss easy. But that's not even why I hate this mission. I hate this mission because of all the forced cinematics. You have to do the fucking walking section at the beginning, where V slowly walks into the portal. You have to do the walking sections in between the boss rush, where V has weak little knees and can't stand up for very long. That's the part that I don't like about this level.
Yeah, I don't like it. Like replaying this game, I was like, oh my god.
Just get it on. Just get on with it.
You only have one pet and it takes forever. You fight 3 bosses, getting your pets back one by one, and it just can't be over fast enough. The next level puts you back in control of Nero, and again, it's way too easy. All the intricate Dante combat disappears, and the Nero missions feel brain dead in comparison. Finally, we get to the last few Dante missions of the game, and they're excellent. I need to take this moment to mention that on my Son of Sparta playthrough, I took the advice of several people and stopped reviving myself with red orbs during difficult fights. It's just way too easy to abuse that. I revived a few times in my first playthrough because I just didn't care. I wanted the game to be over, but on my second playthrough, not only did I not use red orbs to revive, I didn't use the gold orbs either. either. I didn't revive for the whole game, because the only times I died were in challenging fights, and challenging fights is what I want. Even if I got a boss down to 5% health after an hour of fighting, I did not revive. I wanted to earn the victory legitimately, because I was having fun. I don't care how many times I get my ass kicked and have to restart. If the fight is engaging, I'm in. On my PC, the levels load really
Crazy
quickly in
thought.
DMC5. If I die, I'm back at it pretty quickly. But let me take this moment to give a message to all developers. If you're gonna put gameplay tips in your loading screens, make players hit a button to start the level. When the levels load this quickly, I barely make it to the second line of text before it's gone. Sometimes I want to read this stuff, so when I die, I gotta take out my phone, hit continue from checkpoint, take a picture of my screen, pause the game, open the gallery, read the picture, and then play. DMC5 is not the only game guilty of this, by the way. You know what game did it right? Doom Eternal. So I spent a lot of time in some of the boss fights. As a matter of choice, the King
Technically true, but Doom Eternal's tips are also fucking useless, so I'm not gonna count that as a win.
Cerberus fight is awesome. The fight against all three of these animals is brutal, and I loved every moment of it. The Virgil fight isn't as fun as the others. I think it's because it feels slower and more defensive. I'm sure once you master it, you can beat it really quickly. But as a new player, it definitely required a lot more patience. It was still rewarding to beat, and it was a hell of a challenge learning to deal with his Devil Trigger form. I was insistent on beating him without reviving, so it took much longer than it could have. Part 8.
I think Virgil specifically gets really, really fun when you use Royal Guard more, because all of Virgil's attacks are timed very, very accurately, and so it's never really a mystery when you're supposed to Royal Guard, and just keeping up the pace and charging it the entire time is really satisfying, especially when you get really used to the pace of his attacks, and you can, do multiple Royal
would do
Guards instead
that
of just
all the
holding the button.
I
I
always
think
do
Royal
it.
Guard is. Oh, you first.
What'd you say, David?
What is it? I always like Royal Guard Virgil's attacks on like Devil Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I do it on every difficulty because it's just that fun.
But sometimes like on some sport where his like attacks like get very very strict, I use it like sparingly and I use like the full like charge Royal Guard release, like when like his health bar is like very low.
I think the only time I don't use Royal
think
Guard is
that-
whenever
yeah.
he's doing his jet attack.
A thing that I've come to realize lately is that the hat is fucking broken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Faust breaks the game a little bit.
It can break like the death scissors like scissors.
I'm pretty
you ever
sure
get
it's
a-
able to kill boss Virgil, Bloody Palace wise.
Also
a-
Red Hot
it's-
Knight.
charge.
Yeah, it's level 2 Red Hot Knight is an instant kill on like every boss in the game,
It's
except for I think
so
Cerberus.
Ridiculous damage. And with very little cost. It's like maybe like 50,000.
Well, very little cost at the point of the game you're probably actually using it.
Yeah. If anything, it costs more to just actually shoot Dr. Faust than it does to use Red Hot Knight, which is wild to me.
It's so weird. Huh.
Yeah, Red Hot Knight's fucking wild. Oh, also, another thing I like about the Virgil fight is, since it's so small scale, it's actually one of the only times I use the roll to actually dodge things in the game, because I never even bother with it for anything else. Every
That's
other
the thing
enemy-
I realized when it came to Virgil and his role is when you have like when you're in a chain combat thing, and I think you have a level 2 concentration, you're able to like dash around them to keep the thing going, which I found pretty useful.
Mhm.
That's I think the most that his role offers. Oh fuck.
I mean, just like for every character. Well, I guess really just Dante and Nero, but the Virgil fight is the only one where I got any use out of the roll. Because in normal combat, enemies are too all over the place for the rolls to really be properly oriented all the time. And against other bosses, they either move too much or are far too big for the roll to really matter.
8. Nero gets interesting. Nero's gameplay is better than it was in DMC4, with the addition of the Devil Breaker system. Having all these different arms with abilities gives the character a much appreciated level of depth. I prefer to use the Gerbera Breaker since I can use it like an air dash. I'm a sucker for mobility options, what can I say? You start figuring things out, like how you can do a few repetitions of the air juggle combo, and on the way down you shoot them with an exploding shot so that when you hit the ground, you can launch back up into the air and send the enemy right back up to continue the combo. When the game pushes you to play well with Nero, there's some real fun to be had. The unfortunate part is that Nero doesn't even come close to reaching the same levels that Dante does when playing Son of Sparta mode. And that's an even bigger blow up than the game being super easy for the first playthrough. It's a much more significant screw up to have the second playthrough, which should be harder, only be harder in the Dante missions, which don't start until halfway through. You have to beat the game twice, and then unlock the difficulty level Dante Must Die. Then, starting your third playthrough, Nero's levels are actually really challenging. They were awesome. I played through the whole subway mission without reviving, and it feels like there aren't any checkpoints there, so I would die on fight 6 and go back to fight 1. It took me a long time, and I got frustrated, but I loved it. This is how Nero's missions should have played on Son of Sparta. He really becomes a pleasure to play at this point. Dante's missions are even better. It's fight after fight of pure tension and adrenaline. I started experimenting more with jump cancels and air taunt combos, using different style skills with different weapons. The better I played, the more I wanted to use new tools that I hadn't tried yet. I'm never going to go deep into this game's advanced combat options because I don't love this game. I like it. I've had a really good time with it, but I don't love it like I love God of War. Because while I absolutely love DMC5's combat, I love God of War for more than just its combat. I'm in love with that world, the levels and presentation, Kratos and the other characters, the music, the art style. It all goes together to make it one of my favorite series. I don't feel that way for Devil May Cry, but if God of War had Devil May Cry's complexity, I would totally dive that deep. On this second higher difficulty setting, Dante Must Die, the V missions remain equally boring, an utter chore to get through. I usually took a break and came back later when I could watch a movie on one monitor and mash my way through V's levels on the other. If I died, use an orb. I don't want to have to go through this again. To levels beyond this difficulty, I won't be venturing. It's awesome that there are those insane difficulty options to continue to test yourself. I imagine it's incredibly rewarding to master the advanced techniques of every character and style and learn how to perfectly fight and guard against every enemy. The combat in this game is truly something special, and despite all the issues that I went on about endlessly in this video, I'm so glad that I got to play this game. Conclusion. Devil May Cry 5 is an awesome combat experience. I recommend it for that. As a game, as the sum of its parts, I'm not sure how I feel about it. The graphics are great, the animations are fantastic, great cutscenes, mostly great controls, fun, addictive, challenging combat with a staggering amount of depth and room for expansion and mastery. But then there's the balance issues, and the fact that if I tell someone to play this game, I have to warn them they have to suffer through a boring first playthrough and a half-boring second one if you want it to be good.
Assuming
and the
it will
camera
be boring
sucks,
for
and the
them.
enemies are purple and blending
Because,
into
it
walls,
wasn't for
and there's
me.
not much to do in the levels, and there's no good platforming or puzzles, and a full 20% of the game is fucking horrible because you play as V. I can't generally recommend that to people. This game is really complicated to talk about in terms of a recommendation. What I can say is that if you really love good, fast combat with a lot of challenge and creativity, and you can stomach all these issues, and you're okay with waiting like 15 hours until the game gets interesting, then check this game out. It has some of the best combat I've ever seen. It is the fun zone that we talk about in Doom Eternal on this channel. It pushes you into using a lot of your options, it knows you'll have fun playing that way, and then it lets you go from there in whatever way you want to play. When people play Doom Eternal, sometimes after they've seen the fun zone, they decide to just use 2 weapons till the end because that's what they want to do. Others stay in the fun zone and learn to love the weapon switching dynamic play. DMC5 is no different. The higher difficulties pushed me into the fun zone of extended air juggles, weapon switching.
Or the other thing that happens, which is people find out what the fun zone is and they don't have fun with it. Because I do the weapon switching in Doom Eternal, and I don't find that shit very fun. And with DMC5, if you find the fun zone and use quadruple S, you will love it. But I've seen online some people just don't like quadruple S. I have no idea why, but it is a thing.
It's so weird to hate quadruple S.
And the weird thing is that they didn't explain it, because one of the, like, as I'd say, more popular responses to Under the Mayo's DMC5 video is from Loveless, and he did like a whole review of DMC5. And in that video, it was like 5 hours long. And at some point in the video, he was like, "Oh yeah, all the skills are like really consistent and good, except for quadruple S. That shit's stupid and it never works." And he just never explained that. And I have no idea what he's talking about.
Probably because he never figured out how to use it.
Who knows?
Priorities, and once I got used to it, got stronger, got better, I could have just relied on one weapon like Cavalier or my sword, and only used one style, and constantly used power attacks.
Using Cavalier for the whole game sounds awful.
Which
But I did.
much like
I can-
I
Which
like,
one's like
I
that?
like Cavalier, but I am never gonna do something like that. That's insane.
Continued to play in flashy, stylish ways because the game led me to the place in my mind where I wanted to experiment. And that's probably the game's biggest accomplishment. It's something that most games completely fail at due to developer laziness. That's not the case here. I'm happy to say that for all its faults, Devil May Cry 5's combat was made with a lot of passion. Thank you so much for watching. I already know this isn't going to go over super well, but hey, people wanted to know what I think of this game, so here it is. I know the gameplay I showed in this video is worlds away from being professional, and I've heard that it's hard to get your opinions of this game heard unless you're a god at the combat, but I am saying the combat is good. I'm not complaining it's too hard or boring. The combat is great when it finally gets there, but a game is much more than the potential of its combat. I hope I stated things clearly, and that if you disagree, that you at least see where I'm coming from. Now, I'd like to remind you all that if you want to support this channel, YouTube memberships are available below with a join button, and there's also Patreon and Twitch. See you guys in the next video.
Honestly,
And
that
that's
went a
not
lot
bad.
shorter than I thought it would.
Yeah, because
That's
most
what
of what he
it-
says in the
that's
video
what-
just isn't really interesting. It's a lot of inoffensive bullshit.
Why did he do the subscribe and bell give at the bottom and then like not even a minute later say to like and to subscribe at the end of the video? That's odd.
So that you like and subscribe.
But
turn
he
on
already just
notifications and hit the bell.
he
because
already
we're-
did the But he already did that like a minute before he actually said it, so it's like
He also did it like 20
bit-
minutes ago in the video. He did it multiple times. It's
this guy's a
psychological.
fiend
It's psychological warfare against YouTube viewers.
who's always subscriber versus content creator.
Unfortunately, it's one of the most bizarre things about the internet that that the whole subscribe thing actually works, because it's like, why wouldn't you subscribe if you liked it? If you like the
I don't
content?
understand. Like just like let people let the viewers like give the let the viewers like let them like choose to subscribe. Not force them like, hey, like and subscribe, please.
Well, the thing is, for most people, they would subscribe. They honestly just forget. I don't know how this collective YouTube brain rot has occurred, but I have spoken to people who are like, yeah, I just forget to subscribe to channels, because most people use YouTube through recommendations. They do not check their sub boxes ever.
I think it's just freaking I think it's just actual brain rot. Attention spans being smaller and smaller with the internet age.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Like Mel said, like the game will be like hard it'll be like hard to recommend people to the game because it's like very easy. But most people like are coming for like the played DMC5 are like most like new to the franchise, so they're playing it for like the enjoyment.
I mean, even if
Like
they're not
trying
new
like
to the franchise, it's still just not really an issue, because I played every single DMC game before I played 5. I didn't finish all of them, Cough Cough 2, but I did play every single DMC game before I played 5, and I had a fine time playing on Devil Hunter, so it's really just a non-issue.
yeah, like trying all the like different like combos and like trying to get like that like triple S ranks. It's like well, it's like enjoy for like the what about people like enjoy like when they first played the game, and then would like play the second game. They're like trying to like learn all the like in-depth mechanics and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
See, the funny thing with me is I actually bought DMC5 first. I played the prologue. I'm like, let's just go get the other games, and then I played through all those and worked my way back.
That's kind of what I did, because I've been playing the DMC games for a while, but it wasn't until a friend was like, "Hey, I want to see what you think about DMC5," and just had me play on his computer. And he had me play like 3 missions or something. And then he had me play DMC3, and so I said, "Okay, fuck it, I'll just play the whole series now." And then I just went in order.
I feel like Mayo's like own experience. He's like using his own experience.
Oh,
I feel like Mayo's like being like very anecdotal by using his own experience. It's by saying look like
It's a trap
I
that
don't
many
know,
creators fall into, where they're like, "This thing was stupid because I don't like the color purple." But then someone who fucking loves the color purple is like, "Wait a minute, DMC5 sounds awesome." So
it's like
it,
using like your own like own experience to like describe others, even though you don't know like how what their experiences is.
and to be fair, that's kind of what the video is. It's just his experience with playing DMC5. So you could argue that it is supposed to just be his own experience, but that doesn't stop me from saying that his own experience is worthless.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that's everything, then that's everything.
hmm Let's see. At most, since as I mentioned, I'm kind of just playing in the background. The bringer arm is way more broken than I thought it was, and it's added a new level of complexity to Nero. That is all I want to add.
The Buster arm.
It does quite a bit more than I gave it credit for.
Oh yeah,
It's
you
just
should
a little hard to land it.
uh, you should wait. What do you mean hard to land it?
Well, okay, so in my case, I actually do have the controller swapped to a certain way. Let's see.
Because I have
Yes, you first, actually.
because wait, so are you talking about Nero's bringer itself, or are you talking about the Devil Breaker, the Buster Arm?
Oh no, the bringer itself, not the busters.
Oh, okay.
I've been using the busters a little bit more this one, but the bringer arm is what I'm talking about. Where when you attack, you can also summon the arm as like a secondary punch.
Oh, you mean Knuckle?
Or knuckle, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that shit's hard,
Knuckle-
but it is very
Knuckle
rewarding.
damage.
Mm-hmm. And like the way I have my controller is gun on left bumper, exceed is still on the left trigger, devil trigger is still on the D-pad. I put brake on the right trigger, lock on still on the bumper. The arm is, or both arms are on square and circle.
Yeah.
With was it the breakers on the circle and the bringer on the square, and then
Yeah.
everything else is the same. I'm
but yeah,
really
no,
annoyed that his DT is tied to all 4 D-pad buttons, but whatever, I guess.
I mean, what else are they gonna use it for?
Well, I brought up my point of like giving him more style.
Yeah, but I don't
Kinda
know
like
if I
how
would. I don't know if I necessarily want Nero to have styles though. I think I just want him to be able to do more of what he already has. Like give him
I
gun
don't know. I
skills.
like the
Why
like
is it that
the
he can only
idea.
charge and shoot?
Because like I think
Because like what if you just use directional combos with the gun like you do the rest of it? Because I always found it kind of strange how the gun in DMC has always been uh kind of useless for most of everything you need to do in the game. Most of what you're doing is something with melee combos, and then guns are just kind of there to help sometimes. And then in very niche situations like Dr. Faust, they're really fucking good. But just give Nero a shit ton more skills. Well, just make him Virgil, honestly, because it's not like every single input that Nero could possibly do is already taken up. So either give him more weapons or give him more
Ironically-
skills he can already do.
that's what I realized about my suggestion. It's basically just making him Virgil, because my suggestion
You cut out.
give 2 sword, which is literally just Virgil.
Yeah,
Because he has the ability to make a second sword. That's one of his exceed. His no how to It's one of his DT extra moves.
it's showdown. Yeah,
Yeah,
and honestly, he also
I guess
should just
technically
have
so.
a Devil Sword Nero.
I want to see something like that, or Devil Sword Virgil even.
It's one of the stranger things about
I'm
DMC
fine
5
with
to
it.
me is that Virgil has Sin DT, but he doesn't have a Devil Sword, or also a normal DT anymore. I guess.
I
Even though the
get
concept art is in the game.
why. I get why, but he really should have a new sword when you think about it.
Yeah, because why is it that Sin DT can be achieved by just unfusing and then fusing back together? It's a bit strange, isn't it?
Well,
It's not-
it's also Wi-Fi fruit nonsense, but whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, why is it that Dante can have Devil Sword Dante, but then Virgil still palling around with Yamato? And Nero uses a fucking
it?
motorcycle.
The amount of shit that went into Devil Sword Dante is just also unreal, because it gives you, let's see. So you got Force Edge, 2 amulet pieces, and that made Sparta. And then you got the rebellion itself. And then there's just Virgil with the Yamato.
Yeah. Bit unfair, some might say.
Actually, when you think about it, how would Nero get a Devil Sword Nero? Because the way that the Dante works was the fusion of his dad's power because it was technically sealed or whatever.
yeah. I mean, I'm
And
of
he's
the opinion
also
that it should have come from the amulet anyway, and not the sword itself. Because
Hmm.
did Sparta always just plan on giving it to one of them and not both?
There's also the case of technically his base DT is already stronger because he. Now this is like pure headcanon, but like it makes sense based on the rules established because he has the most human blood compared to them. That's why his is actually stronger.
Yeah, but he doesn't use base DT anymore. It's just straight to Sin DT.
No. Nero.
Oh
Nero has
yeah,
the strongest base DT.
yeah. His base DT that
Which
can
like
just easily fuck up 2 Sin Devil triggers.
that raises the question: what would a Sin DT have? Oh, 10 fucking arms.
I mean, honestly, just do what Dante
It,
does with his summon swords, but with arms.
it makes sense, and it continues his angel motif by giving him 10 wings.
If anything, if Nero ever
How
gets a
would
Sin
that play?
DT, I
I
hope his
don't know.
design doesn't suck dick because I hate Nero's DT design.
I like it, but it's got issues.
I think the hair looks kind of weird, and
Yeah,
Neo eyes are not a
Like,
big thing for me.
I wish it was
I
like
think a
in like
lot of the reason is. Oh,
sorry. I wish it was like in like DMC like 4 where it's just like a ghost.
But yeah, but like the ghost kind of does look like what his DT is now, but the ghost was cooler because it wasn't really. It didn't look like much like hair. It looked like a hood, which is what he has. So duh. And the like blankish expression was cooler than creepy vampire eyes or whatever he has.
I call it reptilian eyes.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Also, why does Nero not get to keep his coat when he's in DT, but Dante does? I know the coat's technically his
Because his
wings in
wings.
DT, but still. But Nero also has wings, kinda. So, but for Nero, it's more of a cape than a coat. Anyway, I'm ending the recording.